Here's a segment from a recent Gun Talk radio episode. You can listen to all the Gun Talk radio podcasts however you tune in, or check out guntalk.com for more. Okay, so where are we? Here we go again, right? We have a mentally deranged person, a person who is in mental crisis, who is having breakdowns, who people knew about. He had been put into a mental institution for a couple of weeks. He was threatening to shoot up his army base. He was hearing voices. The army knew about the problem. The police knew about the problem. His relatives knew about the problem, and he's still walking around on the streets in the state of Maine. And nobody did anything really substantive to take care of the problem. So what you do, he decides to murder a bunch of people. He goes to a couple of locations, which turns out, sounds like maybe there were places where he and his girlfriend, who he broke up with, or who had broken up with him, don't know, used to go to gun-free zones. Oh, does this sound familiar? Are we like singing the same verse over and over again? A mentally unstable person goes to gun-free zones where he knows there will be no opposing force and decides to kill a lot of people. I don't care what kind of tool he used. Don't care what kind of rifle it is. In this case, it turned out to be a 308 semi-auto. Oh, yeah, by the way, 308 semi-auto, huh? Sounds familiar. 1962. I was 11 years old. I had a 308 semi-auto rifle with a detachable magazine. Works exactly the same as our modern rifles now. 1962. I'm 11 years old. I use it to shoot my first deer on my first deer hunt. These things have been around a long time. And for the most part, people use them safely, responsibly, and are not a problem. But when we get something like this, we get a mass murder, and look, it's horrible. It's horrible. All the lives that have been impacted and shattered, and people who will not recover from this emotionally. It's absolutely horrible, and it was so preventable. So preventable. People knew this guy was a problem. They had actually put him in a mental institution for 2 weeks. The Army did. And I gather that the state police drove him to the institution. I'm pretty sure this happened in New York, not in Maine, where the state police are required by law to implement the red flag law in New York. Yeah, I know Maine has a yellow flag law. I get that. Nobody used that either, of course. All of the, we're still faced with an awful lot of questions. But it really didn't take the gun ban industry long to jump on this, as they always do. The Rahm Emanuel phrase, never let a crisis go to waste. We have dead people still warm on the ground, and they're going to push their political agenda using these dead people to further their agenda. Trying to promote things that have been tried everywhere and have always failed. Gun bans fail, waiting periods fail, background checks fail. None of them ever reduce crime. They've all been tried. Every single one of them has been tried. And then you have people, Kamala Harris, the head of the gun ban office in the White House now, which actually is being run, you may or may not know, actually being run by Everytown for Gun Safety, the Bloomberg Group. They're actually running the gun control or gun ban office in the White House. More on that in just a minute, what they've been up to. And Kamala Harris is calling for, we need some form of gun control. Can't we just get something pretending that there's no gun control laws in the U.S.? There are no gun regulations. They say, we're the only country without any gun regulations. Really? We have thousands upon thousands of firearm regulations in the U.S. Thousands. You want to go buy a gun from a gun store? You got to get the okay of the FBI. So I think what we're going to end up finding out as they start to unpeel this onion is that there were so many opportunities for somebody to do something. There were so many people and organizations that dropped the ball on this, very much like other shooters where the Air Force or the Army or somebody didn't report someone that they knew to be a problem, knew to be dangerous, knew to be unstable, knew to have mental issues. Should have been reported, should have been in the database. That's why we have it. Interesting how people react. Yeah, there's a lot of noise online, and you get the echo chamber thing going as well. But at the same time, people in Maine, particularly in this area around Lewiston, gun sales went up 200%. People are signing up for concealed carry classes like crazy. What's going on? Well, when it really hits the fan, and people are really faced with the reality of what a violent attack looks like and that it can be close to you or affect you or members of your family or people you know what people do? They discard the chimera of gun control. They throw away this image of being safe by disarming people, and they gravitate to what they know actually works. They decide to take care of themselves. They understand that they have to be their own first responders. They understand that when it all goes down, and look, the police were there quickly. They had a good response time in this case. But I don't care if it's 2 minutes. Man, that's 2 minutes of a guy shooting up the place. What you need is someone on site who shoots back. And look, this is going to sound weird, okay? Stay with me, though. Whether they hit him or not, as long as you're not hitting the wrong people. Because here's what happens. There's a thing called the OODA loop, O-O-D-A. You can look it up. By Colonel Boyd created the OODA loop. Basically, you get inside of somebody's OODA loop and you disrupt it. He has a plan. He knows what he's going to do. And all of a sudden, somebody's shooting back. Whoa, I got to stop doing what I'm doing and reorient and come back around here and figure out what's going on. Who's shooting at me? Where's it coming from? What do I do about it? And while he's doing that, he's not shooting people. You get inside the OODA loop by shooting back. And the faster you do that, the more lives you save. Case in point, great example, Eli Dicken in a mall. Young man, carrying his Glock. A guy with a rifle starts killing people in a mall. Eli Dicken pulls out his Glock pistol with iron sights and shoots him from 43 yards away. 43 yards, almost half a football field. And then continues to put fire on him as he advances toward this guy. As this guy is trying to get his rifle, he's on the ground. He completely upset the OODA loop. This guy was no longer shooting people. Fast, immediate, violent reaction is what stops mass murders. Simple as that. What are you hearing? What are you saying? What are you telling people when they ask you, oh, you're the gun guy. What do you think we ought to do about this? Isn't it time to do something about guns in America? Yeah, really? Do you really want to go down that road? And of course, we have the whole issue of the Second Amendment on top of that, which we'll be talking about. Here's a line that somebody just sent me that I thought was perfect. He says, look, nearly every time the news tells you about a car wreck fatality, they tell you, quote, they were not wearing a seatbelt. Why don't they tell you every time a person is attacked and killed, quote, they were not carrying a gun? 866-TALK-GUN or Tom Talk Gun. Either way gets you in here. I'm Tom Gresham. We'll be right back.